Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So there's been an attack of sorts in Egypt. I'm not quite sure what it is yet. Ultimately, 235 people were gunned down in a mosque while they were there for prayers. That's the long and short of it. Let's take a look at the video in the article. Egyptian attack, President Sisi pledges forceful response. This was the video that's associated with it. This is probably going to be grisly, so you have my warning right now. You know, if this is where I think it is, I think I've been to this mosque. I was traveling back in 2007. I was traveling in 2007, jumping from country to country. I started in technically I started in Australia, but once I got back to the States, I went to Amsterdam, Egypt. I was in Egypt for like 3 weeks. I was in Cairo, but see, I don't know what this is exactly, so I'm not going to say it. But ultimately, it feels weird being somewhere where something like that is taking place. Those mosques are gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. It's like you walk in and light is all over the place just because of the way it hits the marble. And once you get into the mosque itself, at that point, it just looks like a church of some sort. But people go there for more things than just church. It's not like church here in the United States. It's like a study group and everything else. I mean, you have people there studying, you have people hanging out. My tour guide was hit on by a guy who kept calling himself some kind of priest or something like that. Look, the one thing that I got from traveling abroad in the Middle East, in fact, let me read this first. We'll talk about it after. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has vowed to respond with the utmost force. After 235 people were killed at a North Sinai mosque during Friday prayers. The Al Rwanda Mosque in the town of Berd al-Beded was bombed and fleeing worshippers were gunned down. The military has conducted airstrikes on targets in nearby mountains, Reuters news agency reports. No groups has claimed the attack, the deadliest in recent memory. The Egyptian security forces have for years been fighting an Islamic insurgency in the Sinai Peninsula, and militants affiliated with the so-called Islamic State, have been behind scores of deadly attacks in the desert region. They usually target security forces and Christian churches, and the bloody attack on a mosque associated with the Sufi Muslim has shocked Egypt. What is happening is an attempt to stop us from our efforts in the fight against terrorism, Mr. Sisi said in a televised address hours after the attack. The armed forces and the police will avenge our martyrs and restore security and stability with the utmost force. 3 days of national mourning have been declared. Mr. Sisi, the former head of Egypt's armed force, has emphasized the national security and stability during the time as president. He's being a strong man at this point. We've had an attack. People need me to be strong and tough and everything else. I am in no way going to try to get to the root of the terrorism itself. I am just going to punch a lot of people in the face. My using the Batman voice is not trying to trivialize it. It's no one asks the question of why these people do this. No one ever asks that question. Why would somebody go into a church and murder a lot of people? And to call it terrorism, I'm sorry. That's not enough. Like, that's a way out. That's a magical door. Why does it happen? Why does it happen? They're human beings. There were certain things that were put into these people that act a particular way. And mind you, I am not talking about religion at all. I'm talking about environmental factors. Yes, religion may play a part of it, but yes, I'm talking about political and environmental factors. What drives people to do this? To just say, oh, it's just their religious beliefs. That's simple thinking, man. That's simplistic thinking. What drives people in this country to behave like fucking maniacs? What drives people in this country to believe they need a gun at each and every turn? I mean, come on. What allows us to be as depraved as we are with the sense of violence that goes on around the world used at the hand of our particular military? Look, all I'm saying is, it's not enough to say, oh, those people are just terrorists. That's why they do it. Saying they're terrorists is that's not a reason. Like, that's not an ends unto itself. No one is an actual terrorist per se. People commit acts of terrorism, if that makes sense. But that guy, that's not his profession, if that's what you're like. Look, he may be using terrorism for a reason for something. But he, in and of itself, like, calling him a terrorist doesn't necessarily do anything. That doesn't necessarily designate what or why he's doing something, if that makes sense. One of the things that I noticed when I was over in Egypt, they were just people. Like, I had certain impressions of ideas of Middle Easterners when I was in this particular country. And when I got over there, I think the thing that came across more than anything else was, oh, these are flesh and blood people just like me. They argue and bicker with their wives and girlfriends just like me. They're just people. They complain, they bitch, they moan, they have feelings, they have things that they want to aspire to, they have things that they need, all those things, just like us. Sometimes a distance gives us this perspective that they're somehow different. To Donald Trump attacking the country in the way they attacked the country, or Obama bombing all these places left and right, or Bush killing 1 million Iraqis, that they are somehow different. And it's hard to get that scale of likeness from that distance, if that makes sense. I'm saying this very poorly, but I'm trying to get across this thing that just because we're here and they're there, it doesn't necessarily make them any less real. And the things that we do and the things that they encounter, just like the things that we encounter, happen to real physical human beings. Those human beings feel a particular way. Those human beings suffer. And clearly these human beings die. And they will be mourned by a lot of people who cared for those human beings. Not to mention just the shock of the conscience for somebody to do that in that particular country with the way they feel about their religion. My heart goes out to them. That's my point. That's my point. I don't know, this somewhat of an inelegant way of getting around to the point, but yes, my heart goes out to them. Just wanted to notify. Thanks, guys.